are those lyrics? And then he would try and turn them into lyrics, and he wouldn't be able to sing it as well necessarily as the scat vocal, because that scat vocal is the level that you had to beat.
Right.
Right. So that would start this whole long process. And then, of course, they really are a fantastic democracy. So it has to pass everyone in the band's sort of thumbs up. And Larry is Larry, and he has his, come on, impress me. That sort of a mental attitude, So, it's a crazy thing. But those first 3 albums, and then they went off and worked with Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno for the Unforgettable Fire. And then Joshua Tree was a different job. And it says mixed by me, but the way I like to see it, it was more like I was running the final leg of a relay race. Because basically they were so burnt out on some songs on the Joshua Tree that they said, Steve, look, we're giving you this song because we can't, we've come up against a brick wall, on these songs. So it's like I just sort of took over with my boundless enthusiasm, as you can probably tell right now.
Yeah.
Well, I was even more enthusiastic then. Well, I'm still.
But Steve, they trust you on that. That's a huge level of trust to put in you. Like, hey, we're having trouble with these songs. You're our go-to.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know why, they sort of thought I was the guy who did the singles. And I don't think I've ever been a sort of like Max Martin type, I don't,
right.
But I do have this belief that, art and commerce can work together, but really art should come first. But I do have an eye. Yes. I have an eye on the commerce. And I think sometimes, and I love Brian Eno, I mean, he's one of the greatest men I've ever met, and he's absolutely a sweetheart, but maybe they tip slightly more towards the art side. So I was to sort of bring it back into, and also, Brian famously doesn't like guitars or drums. So,
oh, really? I didn't know that. No. I get, you listen to his music. Yes, it's not as guitar and drum heavy.
No, exactly. But that's why he's involved with you too, because they want someone to be like that, because it opens doors that they couldn't open otherwise.
Did they know Where the Streets Have No Name and With or Without You that you mixed? Did they know they were going to be singles, and that's why they brought you in?
Yeah, they was. Well, no, I think, and this is only subsequently that I've sort of surmised that they thought Red Hill Mining Town seemed like the song that was going to be the most the first single. But I do remember doing a mix of With or Without You and taking it and playing a cassette of it in Paul McGuinness's office. And Paul McGuinness was such a champion of me. He was great. And he said, Steve, that's the first time anything sounded like a record since they started, which is a really good thing. And so, yeah, I don't know, but no, I love those songs.
Who doesn't? That's like a legendary song. But when you it's like a slow building song. It almost seems to morph into something else as it goes by.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. The way I see it is, it's almost like a slow motion of a sped motion of a flower opening. It doesn't have hard cuts of. I mean, the bass line is just the same thing all the way through, except for the pedal before the outro, and so it just builds and builds and builds and builds. There's no verse, chorus, and I always think, if you can make a great song without the traditional verse, chorus, bridge structure. You look at Good Vibrations. I did a great version with my first wife of a Kink song called Days. And do you know that song? Thank you for the days. And it's brilliant. But, when we were recording it was like I was trying to work out the structure, and I thought, what's the chorus? I don't quite, and maybe in those, when you're of an innocent person, you don't think logically. And I think that's the great thing about this classic songwriting is that it's sort of, although then, you can say, but the Brill Building, they were doing it by literally 9 to 5, so I don't know the secrets. I wish I did, boys. I wish I knew.
So one quick question, because you said that you got your 10,000 hours in like pretty much before you were 17 in the studio. But
by the time I was 23, which 23, was when punk rock came up in about 1978. I was born in 55. So, and I started in the studio when I was 17. So it really was, and my first hit was a song called Hong Kong Garden by Susie and the Banshees, which I would recommend. If you've never heard it, go and listen to it. It's a great song. And of course, in those days, no one had home studios, and there was not even mobile phones or anything like that. So if someone had a little bit of studio knowledge, you were trusted. And I don't know, there are many, many brilliant producers in the world, but I think I'm pretty good with people, which is, I'm a people producer. I love getting people together. I hate it when if an artist says to me in a meeting, like if they say, Steve, I'll do whatever you want, I won't do the record. I'd much rather someone comes to me and says, Steve, I've got all these ideas. And I'll go, okay, come on, give me the ideas. And I go, we'll take a bit of that and we'll just blah, 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 and let me, you be, just let the creative juices flow and let me be the safety net for your crazy ideas. Because, if an artist trusts in their producer, it frees them up. And if they know their producer is this safety net who will say to them, hang on, that's not so good,
right.
But will let them do these things. It's, it is like a film director, but it's not a dictator. It's much more a liberal democracy, boys, a liberal democracy, which is how the world survived for the last 80 years.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you're really good at either pulling emotions out of no, stop it. Either pulling emotions out of the artists you work with, or somehow like getting like just the best, because it seems like you're a very involved producer from just hearing. Is that,
let me say that
please.
There's and I love Rick Rubin's work. He's an absolute genius. But you hear stories
he's more
from people, and they say, he was doing 4 or 5 albums at the same time when he did our album. I'm a complete micromanager. For me to do a half decent record, I just have to be concentrating on it the whole time. And I have to be in there, and I have to be sitting next to the engineer, and I remember a great producer called Alex Sadkin, who died in a car crash. He did some great records, and I remember sitting in the studio with him once, and he was sitting at the back, just like being cool, reading the paper while the engineer was mixing, and he would just go, a little more 3 dB on the kick, please. And it just seems so cool to be like that. But I cannot be that cool guy. In that U2 book that you were saying, of course, I bought it and flipped to the index, and it said, so I looked up my name, like you did.
As you would.
and it said, Bono said, when we first met Steve Lillywhite, he reminded us of a children's television presenter. There you go. Now, if you're English and you read that, you will know exactly what I mean. There was a great children's show on the BBC called Blue Peter, which is really a slightly controversial title.
Yes. Blue Peter. Yeah.
But that's what we all watched, and I was like a presenter on Blue Peter. I still am, I think. Yeah.
Well, I have 2 more U2 questions, and then we can
Certainly,
move on.
Oh, stop! Don't move on. But
move on to different bands. But do you know what prompted them to move away from you to an Unforgettable Fire to Lemois and Eno? Was it just like creative decision, and they wanted to do something different?
I weirdly, and this is the truth, in those days, I felt that I could do lots of albums in a year.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was just not right for my bands to work with me. Why don't they work with lots of different producers? That's the way I used to think. So after Boy, I said to U2, you need someone else. And they went, no, we want you. I went, okay. So I did October. Now, after October, I said, look, it was a little bit of a dip. I still love that album. It's a beautiful album for a certain sort of mood, because it is a mood album. And after October, I said, look, boys, you really need to find someone else, because I love you and I want you to be successful. So they said, yeah, you're right. So they went and they did some work with Sandy Pearlman, who had done.
Steve, was that a band you started to not be able to give pushback to because you were building such a relationship with them?
No, I just felt, we were great mates. And I said, look, you've got every producer in the world you can work with. Why don't you just try someone else? Right. So they did. And then I remember getting a call in July or something saying, Steve, what are you doing in September? And I went, nothing. And they go, do you want to do our third album? I said, yes. All right. Because we all knew at that point that we needed to get a radio song because, Americans have this, I would never say this word, but it's like you rock, spelt R-A-W-K. Now, to a British aesthete like myself, we would think that's a bit crass. We don't really rock. We're much more, I don't know. But Americans, because of they think it's a compliment, and they would say that to U2 after Boy. October slightly confused them. Right. Where's the rock? We're not feeling this album. And so we thought that on War, we wanted to make it something that, but not in a sort of, in a heavy metal way. Right. Edge doesn't do power chords except on Vertigo. That's the only song he's ever really written with power chords.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I remember hearing that going, wait, this is Edge? Hold on.
Yeah, exactly. But what a great, if you're only going to ever write one song with power chords in your life,
that's it.
That's not too bad. That's not too. That shows the sort of, how they are. I love them. So yeah, they. So on War, it was more like I remember Bono saying to Edge, "Don't be like the Edge. Be more like Mick Jones from the Clash."
Okay.
So there was a little bit of like. They needed to be more like, because the Clash looked cool, their music was cool, and I think that was the sort of, rather than go, oh, we're going to go like a rock band, right. Which I think Sandy Pearlman, who had his big thing was Blue Oyster Cult, they didn't want to be that. So in fact, after we'd done War and it had the success that we liked, it was like, okay, boys, now, and they said, yes, it is time for us to move on. But, did they move on to Mutt Lange? Did they move on to Bob Rock? No. They went to Brian Eno. And it was really Brian Eno who brought along Danny Lanois, who was like his engineer, really. Okay. But that was great. But it was yeah, there you go.
And then my second question was, who came up with the crickets, and did you like those on Joshua Tree? The crickets, the background crickets, like in was it
on what?
Oh, there's
like in between songs, or like in I'm trying to think.
Yeah, an Exit. There's crickets, and
I didn't do Exit. No, that would be no. I had nothing to do with the crickets.
Okay,
Buddy Holly did though. Buddy Holly did.
So not the crickets, but I did hear you say in some interview you were in that you do throw in like these Easter eggs for somebody who falls in love with an album, that where if they listen to it the 20th time, they could then hear something they might have not heard, on the first couple.
Yeah, well, you try and, you try and make a record 3-dimensional, don't you? You don't just have it left and right. You have it left and right and going backwards as well. So, and I, it was this. I always had this punk rock attitude of, if a producer would complain about a squeaky bass drum pedal, You know, I would go, now look, if anyone listening to that record ever heard that squeaky bass drum pedal, it would mean he loves that record so much because he's listened to it 100 fucking times. Embrace the squeaky bass drum pedal, please.
Agreed.
Case closed.
Case closed. Absolutely. And so you worked with the Talking Heads, and Jerry produced our first, second, and fourth records. Love Jerry.
And I stole Dave Matthews Band from Jerry Harrison.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh God, because Jerry was pretty hot in 94, whenever that was. 94.
Yeah, Throwing Copper came out in 94, and
yeah. That's fantastic. And I love Jerry, you know, and
great guy.
And he's super guy. And he, the story with, if we can flip over, like I was, I was living in London. My marriage was sort of going tits up. But I got sent Remember Two Things, which was Dave Matthews' independent CD. And but by the time it had come from New York to my manager's office, and then I went to the office to pick up whatever there was for me at the time, it was time had really, you know, it was quite a long period of time. But I remember putting it on, and I remember listening to it, and I just had this epiphany: was I have to produce this band. So I phoned my manager up, and he said, "Okay, he made some calls, and he said, Steve, well, to be honest, they've already pretty much decided on Jerry Harrison, but they are playing a gig in 5 days at Irving Plaza." So I said, okay, I'm going to see them, and I'm going to get that. I mean, I just knew that this band, that I was the producer for this band.
Yeah.
So I went to Irving Plaza. Jerry was at the gig. "Hi, Jerry, great to see you." I said, "It's all fair in love and war. I'm going to get this band." So I spent I spent the night sucking Dave. No, I won't say that. I spent the night because it wasn't just Dave, because I work, you see, every single member of the band is important.
Right.
You know, I'm not one of those producers who hones in on the brains of the band or the perceived brains of the band. I'm much more interested in working with the weak link, so it brings everything up.
Sure.
You know,
Who was the weak link?
I would never say musically. I mean, you know, everyone knows that maybe the violin should have had frets, and it might have been a bit easier.
There you go.
But that's all I'm saying. He's a beauty. I loved working with Boyd, and I was very proud that I was probably the only producer in there. So, you know, in that sort of era with them, whoever got a trick out of Boyd Tinsley in the studio, because he was not a musician, but his heart was very big for the music, and so he was infuriating. But you know, I have really good patience for working with people who are not, and I love people who are not your typical musician as well. You know, because they think a little bit differently. You know,
right?
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny part that I hear, so you hear Remember Two Things. This is like 92, 93, somewhere.
93, I think, yeah.
Somewhere in that era. And it's such a departure from the music that's like going crazy, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam or whatever at the time. And you hear this, you're like, oh, something's here.
Okay, well, if you, I don't know if you have heard Remember Two Things, but actually, the funny thing is, it starts with just Carter doing a snare drum beat, like going like that. But it keeps going on. So I was, and I can picture myself in my dining room, listening to this CD and hearing the snare drum going, "Come on then, impress me." And the longer that snare drum went on, the more I thought, okay, you are raising the bar stakes here. Yep. You're raising the stakes because I'm hearing this snare drum, but of course I'm very white. So I was hearing the snare drum on 1 and 3. And then went down, 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 down.
Yeah.
I went fuck's sake, I've got to produce this band.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I just wish I wasn't so white, boys. I really wish I wasn't so white.
What do you do?
I've learned to clap on 2 and 4, but my genetic thousands of years say that I'm a 1 and 3 boy. But but you can change yourself. And I have.
You can, yes. It's funny. We played a show early on with Dave Matthews Band in Richmond. This is 90 or 91, and they opened for us at the time because maybe it was 92, 91, 92. Mental Jewelry was out. We played a show with them. They were opening. Something happened between our two crews. I still don't, to this day, don't know what happened. And from that day on, they have never liked us. And even my cousin has toured with us. My cousin Matt toured with us from day one, and he was there, and he doesn't know what happened. So like some bad blood went down. Nobody knows. Maybe
it sounds like
do.
Matt started it, and he won't tell Chad what happened.
My cousin started it.
Oh dear.
But anyway, so they've never liked us even to this day.
There are a few of those untalked of. Well, now you've just owned it. Untalked of sort of rivalries in the music business, and it's normally people that you think, you might think Bono and Chris Martin. They are the best of friends. Noel Gallagher, best of friends. There is someone who I will not name who is not. That's all I'll say. Okay. Oh, that's all I'll say. Yes. There's a. No,
it's not Mick Jagger, is it? No.
But it's interesting. Yes, I'm sorry about that because they. But it's funny.
That's all you can say.
A lot of people didn't like them in those days because they thought they were sort of jazzy. Yeah. And in fact, I remember going to see them at this Irving Plaza gig, and I loved the music because before I was a punk rock producer, I was into prog rock. That was as a 14-year-old, I loved all prog rock, weird English prog rock. So it was sort of a full circle for me, but what I really got with them was the scene of Dave Matthews Band, and it was very weird for me. And I'm attracted to things I don't know about, and I want to work out. And it was the fact that people would go to this concert, and they wouldn't necessarily be standing there listening all the time. They would be like just chatting. And then they would go into the music, and then they'd leave the music a bit. And the music became the background for their social interaction. But then they would go back into the music. And I thought, this is unusual. I was not aware of the Grateful Dead at that time, which may have been a similar, although Grateful Dead songs were short, weren't they? Did they do a long jams?
I've never been turned on by them. So everybody's
never heard anything from the Grateful Dead that I've ever remotely liked. I saw them once.
Either.
I didn't get it. I saw them once just before Jerry died. Yeah. Dave Matthews Band were supporting the Grateful Dead in Vegas, and I went to the show.
Oh, interesting.
And I saw Grateful Dead, and I thought it was a joke. And I'm sorry to say, I didn't understand it. It's only understanding.
I never got it either, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
I know plenty of Deadheads that went to many shows, and I was just like,
yes.
Okay.
I mean, there has
they
to
all
be
smell like
something,
patchouli oil.
Yeah, you had to be part of the scene. Everybody all effed up together, and then maybe. Okay, but Steve, so you just hopped onto some cool stuff here. So how now that you say to Jerry, like, game on, I'm going to Irving Plaza, like, how do you now get Dave?
Well, I mean, we went out that night after the show. We went to the little, what's that Irish pub around the corner from Irving Plaza? I'm sure you've played there many times.
We have played Irving Plaza a few times.
It's a great gig. I love that gig.
Yeah,
it's such a good Irish name too.
Yeah,
I know. About it.
Yeah. So we went there, and Jerry was there, and we were all sat up in one of those booths. And I was I was giving it this, and Jerry is he's not very outwardly, he's a little more
subdued, yes.
He's a thinker.
Yes.
You know, I'm a blah 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 blah. You know, and when I'm when I'm going,
Look
so
out.
yeah. So I worked on them all, and you know, and then of course no one makes the decision that night. You know,
Right.
because we're all friends, but I did say to Jerry, look, I really want this band, man. You know, I know I can do it, and I wasn't aware of Jerry's production style or anything like that, because you know he was a musician on the album, that Talking Heads album that I did, and and I just thought, I know I can do this. I know I can do this, and so yeah.
Well,
and that was
maybe
it. So,
maybe their hatred of us helped you in that situation. They didn't want to use Jerry because of us, so maybe that helps you. I don't know.
Well, no, because they'd already pretty much decided on working with Jerry.
Right.
You know, until I came in and
knifed your way in.
Well, I did. I came in like a fucking. I think it was the English accent.
But thank God
Jerry
you
works
did.
similarly, like how you described you're working with the band. Jerry works like that too. I mean, he's all about, and he likes to work with each member. He doesn't hone in on one person and say,
right.
Great. Listen to the singer.
Oh, he's a lovely. You know, he's great. Although I haven't seen him so much. I see Chris and Tina. I saw them last time I was in the States. They're a lovely. I mean, I'm just always incredibly impressed by marriages in the music business that last a long time. You know, it's just like, oh my God, like Bono and
his wife.
Yeah. it's too early.
Yes.
It's too early. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, think about that. That's a long relationship, and he's at the height of his thing. I mean, that's totally beautiful.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing.
Because you could be out getting all the punani you want in the grand scheme of things. There you go.
Well, yeah, you know, but it's, you know, I don't know. It's, I mean, just, I'm so, I just love the, you know, it's funny when I've known you two. I was, you know, because I was 23 on Boy and they were 17. So I've sort of seen them go. I've seen them. Yeah, it was very, very, and, you know, in those days, there's almost no photographs or anything. You know, you just didn't do that. It was, it's a pity. And you know, things like, oh, Bono, write the lyrics out for me. He would write the lyrics out for me. End of the session, in the bin. Shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's
but then again, you know, you're either a collector of stuff, or you're I feel good collecting stuff, or I feel good emptying. And I'm a sort of real emptier. You know, if you looked at my room now, you'll go, well, I don't think it's finished. You know, it's that sort of a sort
you don't
of
like
thing.
the clutter.
I see behind you there, though.
This is my kids' stuff.
I see some clutter. I see some.
It's kind of became my set.
Say that.
John's like, you should get like a curtain or something. I was like, I'd like this is my kids' stuff, my kids' artwork from school.
I know. But
and then I have a ADHD background because I have ADHD, so you could just look at a color, a flag, blue, purple.
Yeah, there you go.
But Steve, so I got to get back to Dave, because I almost feel like you were destined to be the producer of this band, because there's so many things that go into it, but before These Crowded Streets, I mean, there hasn't been another good album till Away from the World, and I didn't know you produced Away from the World.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, I mean, you had like a thing with this band where you could draw the best out of them in the studio, and like as far as DMB fans go, I mean, those first 3 albums are bar none. Yeah,
they were, and then there was the
Lillywhite
named Lillywhite sessions, which, you know, I got all of the kudos and none of the cash. But there you go.
Yes.
You
got the notoriety though. Busted stuff came out, and people were like, "What?"
I got the kudos.
Yeah.
I got
right.
You know, and I had people come up to me and say, "Wow, you've got the same name as that Dave Matthews album." And I went,
"Get out of here."
But I had a great run with them, and they're such lovely guys, and they allowed me, you know, it was very much I let them do the playing.
Sure.
And then I would decide, because given the way they worked, that every song was about 20 minutes long. So I wanted to make them short enough for an album, but long enough to allow the personality of the band to shine. So 3-minute songs mainly weren't good. They needed to be about 4.5, 5 minutes to allow it to really to breathe and to ferment.
Yeah. So it almost seems like the albums are definitely different from each one to each one, but it almost seems thematic or cinematic in the way they kind of breathe.
Well, that was I got to say that comes from my youth, really, with the Beatles, because I listened to the Beatles when they first time round, and every time a new Beatles song came on the radio, I was so impressed because I knew it was the Beatles, but for some reason it was a slight reinvention. It was like there were other bands whose all their records sounded like the same. The Beatles sounded like the Beatles, but it was
leveled up.
It was a different level up.
Yeah.
And U2 had that same idea. That was the idea with them. So it was just in my, I never wanted. And also when I see a band live, like there's a great, do you know a band called Guster?
I've heard of Guster, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I did an album called Lost and Gone Forever, and it was just 2 acoustic guitars and bongos. Now, I made a great album with them, and I love it to death. My eldest 2 children, it's their favorite album that I've ever done. And,
cool kids.
And we never did any drum kit on it because I saw them live and I heard the power from the bongos and 2 acoustic guitars. I thought, I've got to keep, that's what they are. That's the basis of them. It's my job to translate that into a piece of plastic, and it was the same with most bands. If I see them live, I really get a good idea of how I can, because there's no point for me listening to old albums. This is back in the day. I'm retired now,
right?
But, I would never get many clues on how an artist was by listening to their previous record studio album,
Okay.
But I would if I saw them live, because live
they're free.
You don't think, you're not thinking, you're living in the moment.
Right.
And if I can get that same mental attitude for them in the studio as they do when they're live, I can steer this thing and make a good record.
Okay,
if that makes any sense. Yeah,
100%
sense to me, because that's what we always try to do.
That's what you've. Yeah.
You play the songs like we would often write a song and then play, go play a show and play it live, because it starts to take on a different life. And it's freer, like you said, and you try to translate that into the studio, but it doesn't always work. But it's hard. It's hard to do.
I mean, that's the thing. U2, after the first album, almost never played a song live before they recorded it.
Really?
No. And I would, I remember going to see them live, like certainly after the October album, and seeing them play some of those songs, going, damn, now I want to record it.
Right.
Because but they would always say, no. They would say live is a different animal, because live it becomes a lot heavier, and they didn't want their albums to be like that. They wanted their albums to be more, they didn't want to be like a heavy rock band. They felt that was, they wanted the punk aesthetic, but it's like on Vertigo, maybe if it had been a more traditional heavy rock band, that guitar riff would have been double tracked, and it would have been left and right on the stereo. But we absolutely made a point of having it hard left, to the point that if you cut the left-hand speaker on Vertigo, you don't hear that guitar.
Oh, wow.
You don't hear that guitar.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Not to hop back to Dave Matthews Band, but only because we were on the Lillywhite
He's a big
sessions.
Dave Matthews fan, so you got the
Well, it's
YouTube
not
fan
that-
and the Dave
Yeah,
Matthews
yeah, I
fan.
know. I get this now. This is great. Thank you, boys.
It's not even that,
Thank
because
you.
I'm fascinated by all the YouTube, everything you've done, but just now when you get to the Lillywhite sessions, it gets like weird for a fan of the band, because then they go and, you know, like put aside the sessions you guys were doing and go with the new producer, Glenn Ballard, release
Glenn
every
Ballard,
day.
yeah.
Complete departure from their sound, period. And then what you guys were producing together gets leaked, and the fans are like, this is what should have been next. What the fuck?
This is what we love. Well, it was also the timing it was when Napster was just really exploding. And you know, that if you really are a fan of the band, of any band when you're young, you know, if they're things like count-ins and a little bit of this and a little bit, it's just so, you know, you love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, you know, Hunky Dory by David Bowie, one of my favorite albums. And, you know, on the song Andy Warhol, you hear the little chats before, and you hear the button of the engineer going, take threat, Andy Warhol, you know, and all, and it's just, you just love that. And I think that's pretty much what Dave and the guys, you know, that's what the fans loved.
Yeah.
You know.
It seems like you're in the studio there.
Yeah,
you know, with them.
It's more personal. And, you know, it was just such a pity that I was never allowed to finish that album. Because,
but Steve, so, just from an outsider, I don't mean to cut you off there, but just from an outsider, it seems like the narrative towards that was like it was a dark album. It wasn't going the way either the band wanted to, Dave wanted to, but what was being recorded and what you're producing was amazing. So if it was dark and melancholy, that had nothing to do with you. So then when they go to Everyday, whatever that album is, but then they go and do Busted stuff with re-recordings and reproductions of what you had done, and they're
which I did not even get a fucking credit on that album.
Well, thank God, because you are too good for that album.
Glenn Ballard got thanked on that album, but
Steve, you're too good. You're too good for that album. People heard Busted stuff. They're like, what is this bright sounding whatever? It just wasn't what it should have been.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, what can I say? I did warn them. See, okay, if you got 5 minutes,
please.
We're on Under the Table and Dreaming and Crash, we went away to Woodstock to record, like going on holiday. We're going away to make an album. We've got 2 months booked in the studio. It's a vacation. It's an experience. It's great. Before These Crowded Streets, we're going to San Francisco. We're going to the plant. Oh, wow, they made rumors. Great. We're going to live on a houseboat. This is fantastic. Next album, we want to do it in Charlottesville, Steve. I go, okay, you live in Charlottesville. Now, I know from my experience that what has up till now been a holiday experience is a job experience. This suddenly turns into going to work. And we all know what going to work does. It allows you to moan about things. Right. And I don't mean they were moaning, but I did warn them that this will take longer, because when you're working in your hometown, it's just a different experience, you know, and it's also your 4th album. And so I warned them it would take longer.
Now, like, do they have obligations to their home at that point, or are they just in this home studio with you? You know what I'm saying by that? Like, is it?
Oh, it would always be like, well, I can't come today. I've got a dental appointment. And then I've got this. And I you know, it was, and I knew that this was going to happen. And I was aware of this, and I was in it for the long haul. But they, I think, had been used to the first 3 albums being a finite thing and a finite amount of time. In fact, the Lillywhite sessions was much more like a U2 experience, where you wrestle things and you go back and do them again, and you do this, and then finally you fall out of the studio at 6 a.m. going, oh, that's it. You know, we never got to that point. You know, I mean, all the mixes on the Lillywhite sessions I did myself in 3 hours. I did it the morning that we were finishing. I just said, okay, we get so I just sat there because the engineer wasn't even there. I just pressed the tape and I mean I knew, because when I'm mixing, when I'm working, the term I hate most is rough mix. No, you're always mixing. From the moment an artist comes to hear a playback of something, you're mixing it. You're that's the beginning of the mixing process, is the beginning of the recording. And I've often said to artists I work with, say, look, if you think that it's going to be very different when we mix it, then that's not right, because every time we add something to the song, we are mixing that element into something we've already decided is solid,
Right.
So
right.
you keep building it up like that. So yeah.
So that's that. But it really is a rough mix. If you only did those in 3 hours, like that's really.
No, I feel very proud of those. Well, I mean, they are mixes. They are mixes.
You're just mixing.
I never say rough mix.
But
like
you
I
would
never
have
say
taken
final mix either, though.
But if you had your way,
when you write on a box final mix, I mean, that is so bad for history, because someone comes in. No, you date it and you put mix 84 or or give it a you never say final mix.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And always leave 3 dots after it, just, so they really know it could be continued,
Yeah, exactly.
But so Steve, so with the Lillywhite sessions, 3 hours with them, you would have taken more time with them and done maybe something different if you had your whole vision on them.
Well, no, because they weren't. The recording wasn't finished. Dave's vocals were gobbledygook on some songs. I mean, he's a great singer, so I mean, it sounded pretty good, but he hadn't finished he hadn't like completely finished the lyrics.
Some of them were the scat thing you were saying, like where he's just like
the
humming
scat vocal. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't, and I still had, I had ideas that I remember we finished in June because the band already had a summer tour, so we couldn't go on any longer. So it was like saying, okay, let's come back in September and we'll have the album out for Christmas. Well, in August, I remember sitting in I lived in New York at the time, and I got the phone call saying, Steve, you're out. And I went, what? I said, well, we haven't finished the album yet. I said, no, they're going another direction, which, it's their, look, it's always their right to do that.
Sure.
I'm just a gun for hire. It's not my album, it's theirs. But, I did feel a little, I mean, the thing I most hurt about was that I didn't get a credit on Busted stuff, whereas Glenn Ballard did get a credit on Busted stuff. And I put so much effort into the Lillywhite sessions. I mean, I was, driving that forwards. But that's life.
We worked on one song with Glenn Ballard, and he did what you don't do. He honed in on Ed only.
Oh,
and
yes.
Basically said, you guys played this and this. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't like being told what to do.
No, that's what a band is, a band. And, I used to hate it when I would be, talking to, or be in a group of producers who are chatting, and some big American guy would say, I had to fire the drummer. Now, you don't know what the drummer's job is in that band. If you think it's just playing the fucking drums, you are a dumb man, because that drummer might be the guy the singer's best friend, or the guy who helps the guitarist with something, or, there's a whole infrastructure about a great band, together. And so I know that your band ended acrimoniously, but, and it's a pity, because
it is a pity.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts in a great band. And I think that's what we all love. It's, it's like I said, I was an atheist earlier, but I absolutely believe in magic, that when you get a group of people in a room together, they can transcend the norm,
Yes.
And they don't have to be the greatest
can be much
musicians.
better than the sum of
Right.
you know.
And they don't have to be the greatest musicians like on their individual instrument, but when they come together, there's magic.
Exactly.
Yes.
And my job is to sort of find those moments and capture those moments and document them and and grow them and all those things,
Yeah.
Steve, it's almost like. So were you saying something, Chad?
No, I was just gonna say more. It's a shame.
Well, oh my God, don't even make me get upset about his band, because they were another one of my favorite bands that, if somebody didn't have just a big ego, they would still be rocking and, selling out arenas. But Steve, I want to say, so as I'm listening to you talk, dude, you almost have one of the coolest jobs on the planet. So you're in a room with a band that you love and you're like, hey, Carter, hey, Chad Gracie, maybe try this part in a song that you guys are producing together. So you're almost getting to like lead and direct like people that you're a fan of and like become a part of. That's cool as hell.
Yes, it's for me, it's always a very big decision. My biggest decision is to do the record in the first place, because once I've agreed to do the record, I am 100% committed and I'm in, and I have to, it's and I have to get the band's trust. I love bands. Bands for me, I've had much more success with bands. I mean, solo artists are good, but with solo artists, you have to put together, session musicians, and maybe you don't get, you can hire, I don't have a Rolodex.
No chemistry.
I don't
There's no
have
chemistry,
a Rolodex of people,
Right.
No, you're right. But, and you can put the greatest musicians in, but, it's maybe there's a reason REM were different after, who was the drummer? Bill Berry, was that his name?
Yeah, Bill Berry, yes. Yeah.
But after he left, maybe his, and they got fantastic drummers in, but
sure,
there's something about that structure,
Yes.
I love it.
Agreed.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally agreed. I mean, if you
tell Ed to fucking get it together, right?
I mean,
I wish somebody could. I don't know. He doesn't seem to listen to anybody, unfortunately.
From a Grammy-winning producer, Ed, wake up. But like you said, like the Beatles, let's go to the greatest band probably ever. The Beatles, such a collaborative effort. Yeah, Lennon, McCartney, all this stuff. But Ringo wrote songs, George Harrison wrote songs. They wrote together, and
well, they had a brilliant producer,
true,
who was their safety net.
Right.
But also, as well as being their safety net, could write some great fucking string parts as well. So hats off to George Martin there.
That's the key to a good band, is they need somebody almost on the inside or maybe on the outside a little bit to say, hey, listen to this, check this out.
Well, I'm a great believer that a producer still has a part to play in a band's music, because it's great to have someone. Now, a lot of artists end up saying, well, I hate producers, I produced it, we're going to do it ourselves. That's because there are some shit producers around because this is the deal with producers. You get worse at your job as you get older, but you get better at selling yourself as you get older. I mean, how many people,
Beautiful.
when I did that record in 1974, I love hearing that story. Will you do our album? But hang on, it's now 2020 or something like that. You did that 50 fucking years ago. No wonder it's different, And there are those producers, who only ever talk about, So I'm aware that, you just, anyway, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
So you go ahead, John.
Well, so I was just going to say, so the departure between, I'm going back, Lillywhite sessions to where you then go and do away from the world.
Well,
did you have, I'm sorry?
That was a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
And we made up and we went in and I thought we'd made a pretty good record, actually. It was it was then remixed. Now, the only Dave Matthews Band album that I completely mixed everything was Before These Crowded Streets.
Yeah,
which,
baby.
Which was my, my sort of, the only thing I was there from day one to the very end.
Masterpiece.
Obviously, I prefer my mixes to anyone else. I mean, Tom Lord Alge, he's a nice guy, and he's back in the day he was, he had his own shtick, and that was fine, but I don't honestly think anyone I've never heard anyone's mixes of my songs where I go, wow, that's better than I did. It's different, I mean, the drum sounds the same, and, you think, well, did he do the one headlight snare drum sound, that everyone was talking about at that time? You remember, right? That was how Tom got his, that's how Tom got his thing, really. But no, it was how Carter did his. That's how, because he played he had it so tight, so he could do all his fancy flicks,
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom's story on you is like you got more and more into the mixing level as the Dave Matthews Band albums came on. So he had more mixing to do on Under the Table, less to do on Crash, and then nothing to do on Before These Crowded Streets.
No. I mean, I think it's somewhere in the RCA vaults, but my mix of Under the Table and Dreaming, I would love to hear now. I mixed the whole album.
Wow.
And I remember listening back to it at the end of the album going, this is fantastic. Then I remember listening to the album when it came out and go, oh,
wow.
It's honestly.
That'd be a cool kind of thing, because now we're in like such a digital age where CDs, all that shit is like null and void. So it's like you could almost put out a couple different versions of an album. This is Steve Lillywhite's mix. This is
Tom Lord.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Now on Crash, actually, I went and I sort of supervised Tom on his mixes on those songs. Because he was in New York and I was in New York. I was in one studio mixing half the album, and he was in another studio mixing the other half of the album. And so I would flip between the two studios. So, I at least had, but yeah, no, I won't go anymore. He's a lovely man, Tom.
Not to get too nerdy, but some of your tracks on Crash, like they bleed into each other, like almost like there's like sounds going on that leads into the next song. Like I'm thinking of
that's marijuana. That's
that is not marijuana.
That's the joy. That's the joy of being stoned and
Maybe
having an active, fertile imagination. You know, prog rock is all this. I used to love that. Well, Before These Crowded Streets is even more of that, because it's got these little snippets in between, and that was Dave's idea. He said, I want to have these like little musical commercials between each song. So we recorded these 15, 30-second little pieces, but I used to love like crossfades and stuff.
Sure.
Crossfades are easy to do now on digital, but back in the, when you're working with tape, crossfades means you've got to cut and edit, and you're losing a generation over the edit, and you worry. I mean, there's so much to just do a simple crossfade. Maybe that was the reason I loved it so much, because it was a difficult thing to do, but there's some things on Crowded Streets. There's like little periods of like 15 minutes where I listen. I can listen to it now. I never listened to where I go, that is as good as anything I've ever done.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's just, just great. A song called Crush is beautiful. And I love that song.
Yeah.
Those were scary days.
To that song many times. Sorry.
Those are scary days when the engineer is slicing up your 24 track and.
I used to do that. I
know it was an art form, man. Amazing.
Oh, it is. And what was great was that you got ultimate respect from the fucking drummer especially, when you go,
Right.
because they're standing there listening, and you're going, and they go, "What's that?" "That's your bass drum." "Oh,
Yeah.
really?"
Oh, wow.
"Yeah, I'm editing on your bass drum." Or no, actually, you never edit on the bass drum. I was always taught you edit on the snare drum, because you don't ever edit on the one. Because if the edit is on a different beat, then even if the edit is a little funky, it's not on a place that someone might hear it. It's on a place where, so by doing the edit slightly on an upbeat, on a snare drum, and also, anyway, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I get it.
By doing the edit in a less white way.
Yes.
Don't forget, Steve, people like hearing inside baseball because they haven't gotten a lot of it in the yesteryears.
Yeah.
But here, I want to ask you, is it all business with you and bands? Because it seems like you spend so much time with them that I would feel like you have to gain some sort of a personal relationship with them to where it's like friendly or acquaintances and stuff.
Oh,
Or
it's like you're married. It's like, I've often thought that the reason my marriages have never lasted is because, I treat them like an album where you're intense for a certain amount of time, and then you just leave.
Yes.
Oh God. I mean,
Dad,
that's
I like
that's
it.
my
I like it.
excuse, and I'm
That's
sticking
funny.
to it.
Dad, where have you been all my life?
I know.
No, because those are my exact sentiments. It's like I could love hard, but I could also fall out just as quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
That's life. Look,
That is life.
how are we doing?
But
How are we doing?
we're doing good. We got we're very good. We have
Well, so
maybe
you
10 more
you
minutes.
said it in passing, but
Sure.
you're retired now, so you're not doing any music? Are you
I'm
completely?
pretty much retired.
Okay.
I do things like this. I've done podcasts. I do,
Cool.
there's interviews on the 30th anniversary of this album, or the
Mhm.
40th, or whatever, So I sort of have at least 2 or 3 things a week that I have to do.
Sure.
But no, I'm living a life of I'm living the dream in Bali,
Yes.
Indonesia.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I am.
How did you end up in Bali?
Well, I
of all the
first
world- of
went
all the places in the world.
to Jakarta.
Okay.
I was living in LA, and I just saw the music business changing, and I saw that more and more records were being made by one person at a computer screen.
Mhm.
And I thought, did I join the music business to be a typist? I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
So
all day.
I wanted, instead of like just hanging around LA and trying to, I don't know, and my second marriage had gone tits up. So I had no real need to be in America, and I decided to, and I wanted to go to Asia. So I went to Singapore first, and I did I gave a keynote speech at a music conference, and from there I just traveled around, and I went to Thailand. Nice, but I don't like how their voices sound. It's China was okay, interesting, but I'll never be able to understand the writing. And I came to Indonesia, and they use an alphabet the same as us. I can actually speak a little bit of the language, and the people were very, very nice. And so I did a little bit of work here, and I actually had I had a job at they started bundling CDs with chicken at KFC, and my job was to decide which artists
Oh, okay.
were
You're
in KFC, and I
that.
would actually I ended up I was like running the biggest record store in the world, because of course CD sales had completely dropped everywhere in the West.
Right.
But in Indonesia, the record stores had closed down, but Wi-Fi wasn't big enough for people to have streaming. So they would still buy CDs, and KFC, it wasn't my idea, my predecessor. But so when I started the job, we were selling 400,000 a month across 10 titles. By the time COVID hit, which was the peak, I was selling 1 million CDs a month, 10,000 across 10 titles.
Wow.
Jesus,
You know,
that's amazing.
and only local music. So I became, you know, it was a whole new learning experience. And
So you cornered the
know,
market. You cornered the market
did
over
it.
there.
Yeah, I was just bluffing that I was a businessman, but I wasn't really.
I could
You know,
tell.
I'm not a
And what did
businessman,
it
but I
just
just had.
tanked after COVID? The whole thing?
Yeah, it wasn't so good, and for
Got it.
some,
Yeah.
I stayed there still, but the magic had gone,
Got it.
and I left there a couple of years ago now.
Steve,
And,
how
you know,
were
and
they? How are they fitting the chickens in the CD cases, though? I mean, in America, I don't think they could do that.
Well, greasy.
Indonesians love a deal. So the idea that, and it became almost a family. I mean, KFC in Indonesia is honestly so much better than it is in the West. It's a destination restaurant because they have no pork because it's mainly Muslim. It's a democracy, but it's mainly Muslim.
Yep.
And beef is too expensive. They don't have they have McDonald's, but it's not as big. If KFC and they do it spicy because they love, you know, it's really good. Then they started so it became a thing that when you went to KFC, when a family would go to KFC, they would be offered a CD, and it was like, oh, let's have one for mum, let's have one for the kids. So I would have something for all the family.
That's smart,
simple.
dude.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, like, how was that just something that kind of came to you, where you just kind of work with you? Because that's a brilliant idea.
Just, I happened to be here, and I decided to live here, even though and someone, you know, look, you know what? If you're in the music business, the golden, you know, the holy grail is a salary.
Right.
It's not like, you know, a salary. Oh my God. And I was offered a salary to go and, you know, run the business of the CDs at KFC. So I took it, and it was great. And it was also a learning period because I got to learn all about a different music scene, you know, and yeah, it was fun. But now, as I say, if I get the call, you know, I'm not really in the
You're
business.
enjoying life. You're doing you, taking your time. Yeah.
I've always been hedonistic, though. I've always done whatever I've done. I've not done for anything other than the sheer love of it. I've never done it for money.
Great. Right.
You know, if ever I did do something for money, it was always a failure. You know, and
I think that's what inspires me about you is, like, you seem to be attracted to and like doing the things that you love to do rather than this is a paycheck. Like, you're working with bands that you want to work with, as opposed to like, oh, this could be commercially successful.
Oh, never.
Yeah.
You know, art before commerce, always.
Yes.
But with an eye on commerce. You know, you know, if you're working with a heavy rock band, you don't say, let's try an accordion for that intro. No, you don't do that.
No.
But you know, you try and make sure that you present it in a format that is good for the radio.
Can I bring up a bit of controversy that you could?
You know, we say controversy, but you can say controversy.
Well, don't make me break out my UK accent because it gets a little squirrely. I don't.
Because it automatically goes into Australia. You don't want to hear it.
Yeah, okay.
Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the.
Here we go. I told you.
All right.
What's the controversy, John?
Controversy. No, so again, this is heavy, and again, I don't know if you want to get into it, but you have a personal or new Boyd Tinsley personally. Were there any inklings? Because as far as I knew, he was part of Dave Matthews Band, big ripped violinist, and I thought he was like straight or like dating women and stuff like that. And then
he was married.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what happened? Like why he's not in the Dave Matthews Band? So supposedly some protege of his, like that would tour with the Dave Matthews Band stuff, like he went and like as the dude was sleeping, went and like spanked his monkey over him and was like sexually harassing him, like hardcore though, to where the guy like had to like go in and sue him and I think press charges. So like DMB kicked him out. So the only reason I bring it,
I honestly don't. I've never heard that. I promise I've never heard.
wow.
That. So I just heard that he'd left the band because I'm not. You know, I that's one thing. Probably the only person I've ever worked with. I've ever worked with who I keep in contact with is Adam Clayton. We have a two weekly phone call.
How cool.
But no one else. You know, I don't think I've ever spoken to Dave Matthews on the phone. He's just not that sort of a person.
Yeah.
You know, so I honestly don't know what happened. I just thought he left the band. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. So now you completely ruined it for me, John.
I didn't mean to, but it completely warped my brain because I'm like, this dude doesn't seem. First of all, I didn't think he was gay, but two, I didn't think he was like.
It's like that joke, though, isn't it? You shag women for 20 years, you suck one dick, and everyone thinks you're gay.
Very true. Very true. I've been blowing dudes for years and I've never gotten a gay card. So anyhow,
please tell Adam hello from me when you.
I will do.
Because
have you ever come across?
I've met Adam and the Edge twice,
right,
and then Bono once, but never Larry, the guy that I.
Yeah. Larry keeps himself quiet. He's not a sort of rock star, even though he's the most rock star looking in the band in a way. You know, he doesn't. He
doesn't mingle.
He doesn't mingle, no. But he's just great guy, and he is the leader of the band in a lot of ways.
I have heard.
It's like because Larry can be bloody minded. And
we pissed off Larry because they asked us to open for them in '94 as we were ascending, and we had booked a theater tour, and they asked us to open for them, and we were on we want a headline, we want to be a big band, we want a headline, and we said no. And I think we're one of the only bands that ever said no. And Jerry Harrison and a friend of mine were at dinner with Larry, I think in 21 or 22, and someone said, Jerry produced Live, and Chad Grace is a big fan of yours. He's like. He's still not happy about the fact that we said no to him.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
So if I ever do get to meet him, I'll have to apologize profusely. Yes.
Hell hath no fury like a drummer scorned.
Like Larry Mullen scorned, I guess.
Like Larry Mullen scorned,
yes. Yeah. Anyway.
That's funny. Well, boys, this has been great fun.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
I love how you clip. Actually, even as I was saying things, I was going, they're going to clip that bit. They're going to clip that bit. Oh, there's another bit that they're going to clip. We got plenty. You are clippers. You are clippers. I don't know who does the clipping, John or Chad.
John does the clipping.
John does it. Well done, John. You do some good fucking clipping.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Bobby helps. We have a producer in the background. Yes. But God forbid, Steve, you ever need to get something from him, it's like pulling legs, pulling teeth out, whatever you got to do. But he gets the job done every now and again.
It's great.
Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, thank you very much. It's been wonderful. And half an hour before we did this, I'd forgotten completely. So I just literally opened up my phone. I opened up Instagram and I saw Chad going, in half an hour, we've got Steve Lillywhite. And I went, that's me.
Yes. Steve,
perfect. It all worked out. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're totally grateful. We literally just scratched the surface. There's so much more to get to. So hopefully this is part one of many.
Yeah. Well, look, in a while we can do another one. There's no problem.
Yes.
Awesome.
And if any artist maybe got a sound to you, is it out of the realm that you could possibly produce something for them?
Well, with them, I look, you never say never, do you? But just purely with the economics and the location of where I am, I mean, it would seem relatively far-fetched.
Gotcha.
Let me put it that way. But as I say, I am. The great thing is I'm now listening to music again and really loving. That fucking new Gorillaz album is just brilliant. Have you listened to it?
No, not yet. I'll check it out.
Oh, listen to it. It's called The Mountain.
Okay.
It's an album. He went to India and it's about his father dying. And it's got sitars and things, but it's got rapping on it. I love albums like Rosalia. Have you heard Rosalia? Her new
No.
album called Lux
Okay.
is brilliant. I mean, it's so ambitious. She sings in 14 different languages.
Wow.
It's got the London Symphony Orchestra on. It's Nigel Godrich mixed some of it. It's got rapping in it. It's just so ambitious. So ambitious. So Gorillas, The Mountain, Lux by Rosalia. I just love those two albums.
Perfect.
And one last question, because so now are you listening to music like to where it's not like a business thing, like you're enjoying it to where it's
exactly
like,
that. I
yeah.
never listened to any music when I was working because it would be like, oh my God, that's just reminding me of my job, you know. So but now I'm and it's good for my mental health.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for many years I was Steve Lillywhite, producer. Now I'm Steve Lillywhite, fill in the blank. I'm still working on that, boys, but I will keep you updated next time.
Beautiful.
Steve, God bless you, dude. Enjoy listening to music because you were missing out. Like if it was always, you know, a job. Yeah,
I know it's beautiful. Those two albums, I tell you, they are just beyond ambitious. They're great.
Cool.
The man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much, Steve Lillywhite, everybody.
Steve. Take care.
Right on.
Yes. Wow, that was so much fun. You cannot go wrong having. He's got legendary stories. He lets them roll off the tongue. I mean, it doesn't get much better. Yeah.
Upbeat, you know, he's just, I love it. It was amazing. Great guest. Great guest.
The gracious audience, you're welcome from myself and Chad. We've delivered another banger for you. No, we got to give it all up to Steve Lillywhite. That was so much fun. I mean, just hearing these legendary stories like Chad was saying and getting to hear some intricacies from your albums, bringing up, you know, it's cool.
Well, when he comes back on again, we'll get a little more deep into U2, but I didn't want to overwhelm him with U2 because I know you wanted to get the Dave Matthews stuff. So, you know. Yeah,
but you could have hijacked the whole show with U2. We would have done Dave on part 2. So wherever you want to go, I'm always on board. But yeah, it was cool. So when you get to talking about U2, I get to sit back and be like a spectator. So I don't mind. You could have taken up the whole show. And then I just get to sit there and be a guest, and it's fun. And yeah, it's just fun. Cool stuff. Great guy. And definitely have him on again. We're going to let the audience know what, Chad, that the world is a vampire.
Set to drain.
That's right. Let's bring on our one and only Bobby, see if he's still alive, and then we will bid everybody adieu. Bobby, what's going on?
What's up, guys? That was a great show, man.
I was just going to say, let me guess, it was a great show.
It really was. Genius show.
So much fun.
Just wanted to say, you know, like, subscribe, keep watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Right. If you had one question to ask Steve Lillywhite, what would it be?
What was it like to be a producer for the past 50 years?
Wow. That's hard stuff right there. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bobby from Bobby's World. 50 years being a producer, Steve Lillywhite. Daphne, look, she loves our Bobby, though.
Yeah. Well, again, please like, subscribe, share, comment, all the good things. And let's go through our sponsors.
Yes.
Before we part ways.
I forgot this too. I'll put up the sponsors while we're doing this guy. If I could. Oh, maybe I can
play the intro now. I love it.
Oh my God.
Our guest came on early, so next time we'll play.
Boom, scan that QR code if you want 15 to 20% off. You know, some shirts, PhD seltzers. That's where it's really at. A little loud in my ears. I don't know if I could do this. Yeah, so anyway, the Gracious 2. If you want to pick up those, scan that QR code. And if not, if you go to the websites and just type in the Gracious 2, it should give you those discounts. If not, you could call our lawyer. He is
that's right.
Who's Dershowitz? That's our lawyer.
Great.
No, we got a better lawyer. I'm sorry.
We got Ashley Bailey or
right.
Cochran.
We got somebody who
Johnny Cochran is our lawyer.
Somebody who didn't represent pedos is who we'll take, or was one himself. We don't know. I'm just saying. Hey, We don't know, but I feel like people do know. Alan Dershowitz, I'm pretty sure the girls you were with do know, dude. So while I make jokes, you just, go to hell. Anyway, gracious audience, it's been a beautiful Tuesday. It's 11:21 at night. Your boy's a little spent.
Peace, everybody. Thank you.
I was going to usually say goodbye last, so
goodbye last. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Black screen? No? Yeah.